intro. There's some new people and some old people and more people coming, but everybody knows that this is Swami Sarvapriyananda, and we are pretty lucky to have this private teaching. I'm calling it a private teaching.
It is, huh?
It's definitely a private teaching. Normally there's like 15,000 people in the
No, no, yeah.
8, 10, 12, 15. So this is really special. And if you can go back and look at the other talks on YouTube, you will really appreciate it because it's kind of in a series and the information's fabulous. Sorry about the heat, but we want to be able to hear. There's water in the corner. And welcome Swami. His center's on the Upper West Side if you want to be able to hear more in person. So, thank you.
All right. I'll start with a chant. Om asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Come.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome.
So it's great to be back here again. I'm going to say exactly the same thing which I've been saying in the earlier two talks, because the message of Vedanta is just that one simple message: what our inner reality is, who we really are, what we really are, and how to discover that and how to live that. Before I start today, I'm going to start with a story. This is something, it's a very nice story which I heard about 10, 12 years ago. I was in the high Himalayas. You know, the source of the river Ganga, the place is called Gangotri. It's about 10,000 feet high in the Himalayas. And there are monks there who live there, even today, in caves and in little huts. So once in a while, I've done that 2 or 3 times, going there and staying like the traditional monks. You know, you beg for your food. It's not as bad as it sounds, because there are places where monks are fed for free. I mean, it's supposed to be a very meritorious deed if you give alms to a monk. So you have enough food, but it's very simple fare, and you get to live by yourself and do your meditation, your study. I was doing that at one time, and it would be usually around this time. You get dinner at 4 p.m. You go there, and because it gets too dark after that. And so after dinner at 4 p.m. we'd go for a walk. The river Ganga is very narrow and fast there. It's just been born, so to say, from the high Himalayas. And it's a place of pilgrimage for Hindus. Thousands of Hindus go there every summer. Winter it's snowbound, icebound. In fact, the beginning of the Ganga, that's the Gangotri, that's where it starts. That's a place of pilgrimage, and most people in the plains of India have never seen snow. So when I first had my first winter here in New York, I took pictures of Central Park and sent it to India, and they were like, "What's all that white stuff?" No, I'm joking. They know what it is, but they're never. I mean, it's 100 in the shade is more like normal there in Calcutta. But the funny thing I found was the hill people who live there in the mountains. For them, the mountains and snow are just a matter of daily life. You know, they know all of that. What they are interested in is the end of the Ganga, where it merges into the ocean, where it's vast and wide and slow, and it goes into the Bay of Bengal. And the hill people, they would ask me, "Is it really all that wide?" You know, the river becomes wider and wider as it goes down to the ocean. And we want to go and see that. And I would say to them, go in winter, don't go in summer, because they can't take the heat. They are used to the high mountains. Anyway, that's beside the point. So around this time we would go for walks with the monks after having our dinner, and we would go for walks. Beautiful. You can see the pine forests, the deodar forests there, and the river rushing by. And there was no snow there at that time. In the peaks were, of course, all snow-clad, and the glaciers, you could see them coming down. Very beautiful. So that's one of these days where I heard this story. It's a very interesting story, and it has a direct bearing on what I'm going to talk about today. So I'll start with the story. It's a story of a very beloved character from Indian mythology, the Emperor Janaka. He is supposed to be a philosopher and an emperor. So a man of the world, but a very spiritual person who is enlightened and yet rules an empire. So one day, this great Emperor Janaka, he goes to bed at night, relaxes in his palace, and suddenly he is woken up by the sentry, the guard, who comes and says, Emperor, get up, get up. What's wrong? We've been attacked. The enemy is attacking and we must go and defend the kingdom, the empire. And he says, all right, I'll put on my armor, call the generals, bring out the cavalry, and he takes his bow and arrows and sword and goes out to fight. And there's a terrible fight, and poor Janaka, he loses the battle, and the invader captures him. He is dragged in front of the conqueror, and the invader says to him, Janaka, you are of a noble birth. I'm not going to kill you, but I'm going to take your empire away, and you're exiled. You have to leave this country. It's not yours anymore. So next day in the morning, now Janaka goes from the emperor to nothing, and he is wounded and exhausted and devastated. He goes from house to house in what used to be his own capital, asking for food or water, and nobody is willing to help him because they're scared of the new dictator. And so he walks desperately till he finally crosses the border into the next kingdom. So I think the empire couldn't have been all that big, I mean, if you can cross it so fast. But then he goes to the next kingdom, and there he sees poor people are being fed. There's a queue, a long line of poor people, and they are standing in line and they're getting food, and he stands in line. And when he comes to the place where they're getting food, in a ladle and in a pot, in a bowl, he gets a bowl, and they say there's almost nothing left, but you seem to be a good person of noble birth, fallen on hard days. Would you like to take the remnants at the bottom of the cauldron? And Janaka says, give me anything. I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm just so hungry. And they give him the poor remnants, what was left at the bottom of the barrel, so to say. And with trembling hands, he's bringing the bowl to his lips. A kite. You know what a kite is? A bird, like an eagle. There are lots of them in India. So it was circling around, and it swoops, knocking the bowl from poor Janaka's hands, and the bowl goes rolling in the dust, and he can't take it anymore. He falls down on the ground, wailing. The original, I heard the story in Hindi, and here's something funny. If you know Hindi, the monk who told me the story, he said the emperor fell on the ground. The phrase in Hindi is ha ha kar karte hue. Now ha ha in Hindi means exactly the opposite of what it means in English. It means alas in Hindi. So he falls on the ground saying alas, and sits up on his bed, his heart pounding, covered in a sheen of sweat, and it's dark. He's in his palace on his bed. At that point we would have said, oh, it was a nightmare, maybe what I ate last night or something, but it's all good. It was a nightmare. But remember, he's a philosopher, an enlightened person, and he says, was that true or is this true? And hearing his shout, the guards come rushing in, and they say, Your Highness, is everything all right? Why did you shout? Was that true or is this true? The guards look at each other puzzled. They don't know what he's talking about. And they call the queen, and the queen comes in the dead of the night. What's wrong with you, old man? Now what's wrong? And the emperor says, was that true or is this true? The queen is puzzled. She's never seen him behaving that way. She calls for the royal doctor, who comes and who takes the pulse of the emperor and says, what's wrong, sir? Where does it hurt? Do you feel well? Was that true or is this true? They are all puzzled. They don't know what to say to him. Next day in the morning, it's all over town, the capital city. They didn't have Twitter in those days, but they had the lotus vine, the great point, the lotus vine. So it spread all over town that the emperor has lost his mind. And so they're talking about it. The great sage, another well-known character in Indian mythology, Ashtavakra, he whose body was bent in 8 places. And why his body was bent in 8 places, that's another long story. I'm not going to go into that. But he's a great sage. He is an enlightened person. He has come to town and he hears people in the market talking about it. The emperor's lost his mind. He just keeps saying, was that true or is this true? And because he's such a great sage, he immediately knows what has happened. So he said, I should pay a visit to the emperor, who happens to be his student. So he goes to the court. Come. He goes to the court, and then he sees the emperor sitting there in all his glory, surrounded by his queen, his ministers, his generals, and everybody else. Everything is fine. But only one thing. Whenever you go to the emperor with a problem, sir, sign this or whatever, he just says, was that true or is this true? And they're all puzzled, befuddled. What to say to that? And the sage goes to the emperor and he says, so, emperor, how are you today, your highness? Come on in, yeah. And the emperor says, was that true or is this true? But the sage knows what he means. So the sage says to the emperor, O emperor, that defeat, that frustration, that pain, that sorrow, that terrible thing which happened to you, you're rolling on the dust, crying, alas, is all of that here now? The emperor sort of snaps out of it and he says, no. And all of this, your power, your queen and the generals and your pomp and glory and the success and everything so fantastic here, was all of this there at that time when you were rolling in the dust and crying, alas? He says, no, it was not. Then, O emperor, neither that is true nor this is true. This was not there at that time. You did not see this. This is gone. And that is gone now. At this point, the emperor looks shocked and he says, is nothing true then? And the sage says to him, were you there? Did you see that? That's not true what you saw in the dream. But did you see it? Were you there? Yeah, I was there. I saw it. And are you here now? This is not true, but are you here now? Do you see this? Yes, I am. Then, O emperor, neither that is true nor this is true, but you are the truth. The story ends here, but the rest of the talk, what I'm going to talk about today, just explains the story, what it means, the philosophy and how it relates to our life. Vedanta is the most ancient teachings of Hinduism. And I was just thinking, I got this feeling in California when I was there last year, that when I say Hinduism, most people sort of relate it to some new agey kind of thing. And that's that's understandable, because there were a lot of Hindu elements in the New Age movement, in the 1960s and 70s. I know. I live in 1 block down from Yoko Ono near Central Park. She's still. I've not seen her though. But yes, a lot of New Age stuff involved elements of Hinduism. That's why people associate Hinduism with New Age. But Hinduism is the oldest living religion on earth. I mean, if compared to other religions, Hindus would consider Buddhism New Age 2,500 years ago, or Christianity or Judaism New Age, because Hinduism, Buddha is separated from us by 2,500 years, and the origins of Hinduism go back even further than that, from the Buddha back to 5,000 or 6,000 years. We don't know really. And Vedanta are these teachings which you find in the Upanishads. Upanishads are the texts, the root texts of Vedanta. Among all the Upanishads, there are 10 important ones, and I know of at least a list of 108 ones, 108 Upanishads. I have not read all of them, but the 10 important ones. Among them, the smallest is the Upanishad called the Mandukya Upanishad. It's the smallest because it's only 12 verses in Vedic Sanskrit. It's supposed to be the most powerful. And it deals with exactly the story which we talked about today. You know, what was going on in the story, we're going to talk about that. So this Upanishad is what I'm going to talk about. It's easily summarized. The message is easily transmitted. That's what we're going to do in the next few minutes. So the Upanishad I'm going to talk about is the Mandukya Upanishad, the smallest of the Upanishads, the most powerful. In Bengal, they love their spices. So there are chilies, and the smallest ones are the hottest. So they call, in Bengali there's a phrase dhani lanka, the small chili, which is supposed to be it's really hot. If you put it on, you'll know. There's something called ghost pepper. I tried it once and I didn't find it all that hot compared to that one. So anyway, this Upanishad has been compared to that kind of a chili. It's the smallest, but it's really hot. If you touch it, you're going to be transformed. You cannot walk away from it without being transformed. So there is a very nice story about this. The story of Rama and Sita, the Ramayana, is known to everybody in India. The Ramayana, the story of Rama. And the great devotee of Rama is Hanuman, who is seen as in a monkey god form, and is a great warrior, and who is devoted to Rama, who just lives to serve Rama. And Rama is seen as the incarnation of Vishnu and so on. So it's a very colorful mythology. But the story is this. Once Hanuman asks Rama, how do I get liberation, moksha, nirvana, salvation, freedom, enlightenment? And Rama says to him, for those who seek enlightenment, the Mandukya is enough by itself. The original Sanskrit is Mandukyam ekameva alam mumukshunam vimuktaye. For seekers after freedom, to give them freedom, the Mandukya is enough by itself. So that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, I've advertised it enough, and now I can see everybody's eager. Let's have it then. All right, let's get into it. What does the Mandukya Upanishad say? Just in 12 mantras, and it's not difficult to summarize. It says, if you know yourself, you know the secret of the universe, you're enlightened, and you'll be free of all suffering forever. You have attained the goal of life. The whole drama of life is meant for that, this enlightenment, the spiritual enlightenment. And how do you do that, this enlightenment? If you know what you are, not who you are. Sometimes I've given a talk about the Mandukya, which became very popular. Who am I? But that's slightly misleading, because I found that in this country especially, when you say who am I, most people mean am I a sportsperson, or am I a good person, or am I an artistic person? The kind of person I am. I'm dropping out of college. Why? I'm going to discover who I am. Now that's something different. That's a different project. Discovering your talents, discovering the kind of person you are, that's something. That's about the person. It's important. But the Mandukya and Vedanta is not about the kind of person you are, not about your specific talents, about your the kind of personality you have, discovering yourself. No. The Vedanta is about something deeper than that, deeper than the person. It points to a reality which is common to all of us, and it lies deeper than the person. The person is different in each of us. We are different persons. We have our uniqueness. But beyond that, there is a fundamental impersonal reality, which if you realize that's our ground reality, that's who I am, then you're supposed to be enlightened, you're supposed to be free of suffering forever. Now, Mandukya is about that. How do you discover that? Each of the Upanishads, all the Upanishads are about that basically. The great sentences which you find in the Upanishads, they're called Mahavakya, literally means great sentence. And the Mandukya has one of them. It goes like this: Ayam Atma Brahma. This very self is the absolute. What you are is the absolute. It has been stated in different ways. Basically, it means God, what is called God in theistic religions, and the individual are one and the same reality. Not that you are God, but what God is and what you think you are, the individual person and the divinity which is called God, both are ultimately one reality. That's what it means. A great German mystic in the medieval ages, Meister Eckhart, he put it this way: the ground of God and the ground of my soul are one and the same. If that's evocative. There is something which is impersonal within me, something in God which is beyond the personal God. At that level, we are one reality. That's what the Upanishad wants to say. That thou art. That ultimate reality, that's what you are. Each of these Upanishads gives you a new way of realizing that. And the Mandukya Upanishad has its own distinct way, which is what we're going to talk about. I haven't started yet. The Mandukya Upanishad says, look at your own experience of life. The most ordinary experience of life which we all have every day, each day of our lives. And the Mandukya Upanishad is asking us to take a look at that, and in baby steps, it will guide us to our own reality, that absolute within us, starting from our basic experience of life. What does the Mandukya Upanishad say? It says, you, the self, the word used in Sanskrit is Atman, A-T-M-A-N, Atman, the self. The self has 4 aspects. 3 of them are known to you, and the 4th one is what the Upanishad is going to tell us, what Vedanta is going to show to us. 3 of them are well known to you, and we're going to start with that. Like any good teacher, it starts with what is well known to us and then takes you to what it wants to teach us. So what are these 3 which are well known to us? The 3 aspects of the self. Remember, the 3 aspects of the self is not what the Upanishad wants to teach us. The 4th is what it wants to teach us. But the 3 is where it begins. What are the 3 aspects of the self which we experience every day? We have 3 distinct kinds of experience every day. Waking, which we are in now, hopefully. Vedanta has a way of putting you into the it has a soporific effect sometimes. The waking, the dream, and the deep sleep. These are well known. The waking is what we are in now, right now. You are the waker, and you have a waking universe, your waking life, what we normally consider our real life. And yet, every day when we fall asleep, we dream. We experience many other things. When we wake up, we dismiss it as a dream. Oh, it was just a dream. Unless you are Janaka, who then wakes up and says, was that true or is this true? But that's the second thing that we experience every day, dreams, where you are there and there's a dream world. You entirely forget that you are lying on your bed or couch and you're sleeping. You forget that entirely. Your waking life is erased and you are in this dream world, which only after waking you realize it's a dream world. But it's a world in which you are there. You can see your body, you are there, and you are, all sorts of things are happening. You're meeting people. There are events, good and bad. Some of them are good dreams, some are nightmares. But then you wake up out of it. So that's another kind of experience you have. The dreamer and the dream world. And the third kind of experience is the nothingness of deep sleep. We also sleep deeply. You know, when you wake up and you say, I slept like a log, I didn't know anything. Believe it or not, every culture has words like that, showing that the deep sleep experience is something that everybody, that we do undergo it. We just say it was nothing, I'm just blank, I didn't know anything. But the deep sleep is also a kind of experience. The deep sleep, according to Vedanta, is not an absence of experience. Rather, it's an experience of absence, a blankness, like being switched off. When you open your eyes, you're seeing something. If you close your eyes and imagine something, it's like dreaming. If you stop imagining, you're just sitting blankly, it's a bit like being asleep, deep sleep. So we have these 3 experiences throughout our lives. Every day we cycle through them. Waking world, waker and the waker's world, dreamer and the dream world. Like in the story, Janaka, he fought this war, he was defeated, his life was just shattered. That was the dream Janaka and the dream world. And deep sleep, where you switch off. You're neither aware of the external world, you're not aware of any dream world, you're not aware of yourself, just blank. And yet, that is an experience. Otherwise, you wouldn't be, you follow this carefully, you wouldn't even talk about deep sleep otherwise. When you say, I didn't know anything, but you knew that. Not at that time. When you wake up and you look back upon it, if you did not experience anything in deep sleep, nothing at all, if it was not an experience at all, nothing presented to you the consciousness, in that case, you know what you would say? You would say, I was awake, I fell asleep and I dreamt and I woke up again. You would never even mention that there was a time when there was nothing, blank. So deep sleep is a kind of experience. And the Upanishad says, these are the first three aspects of the self. You, the waker, and your waking world. And you, the dreamer, and your dream world. It changes every night. And you, the deep sleeper, and the darkness of deep sleep. These are the three aspects of the self. You might say, yeah, I get it. Get on with it. But these are the three aspects which we experience every day. And what the Upanishad wants to tell us, what Vedanta wants to tell us, what Mandukya wants to tell us is, none of these are the real you. You are not even this person and the world that you experience as the waking. You are certainly not the dreamer and the dream world, because that you know. When you wake up and you say it was just a dream. You are not even the deep sleeper and the darkness of deep sleep. Rather, the Upanishad says there is a fourth aspect. And literally the Upanishad calls it the fourth. The Sanskrit word turiya means the fourth. You are the fourth. There is a fourth aspect to it, and that is the consciousness in itself, which appears as the waker and the waker's world, which appears as the dreamer and the dreamer's world, and which appears as the deep sleeper and the blankness of deep sleep. One good way of understanding this is gold and ornaments. Suppose you have gold which is made into a necklace, and then it's melted, and then again it's made into a bracelet. It's melted and it's made into a ring. Now there are three ornaments: the necklace, the bracelet, and the ring. And suppose somebody comes and tells you, these three are not the fundamental reality. There's a reality called gold, a fourth. Gold is not really a fourth kind of ornament. You're with me here? Right? It is rather the substance, the reality of these three ornaments. It is that which appeared to you as the necklace when it was made into a necklace, when it looked like that and you called it a necklace and you put it here. And it is the same thing which appeared to you as a bracelet when it looked like this and you put it here and you called it a bracelet. It's the same thing which you called a ring and you put on your finger, but the thing is the same, the material is the same, right? Do you see the difference between gold and an ornament? Gold is the substance which appears as the ornament. The ornaments are not on the same level of reality as the gold. What do I mean by that? This is a crucial idea to understand. The ornaments cannot exist without the gold. You see, when I say necklace and when I say gold, they're not same. They're not two things. Rather, the thing is the gold, and the shape and the name and the way you use it, that's what you call a necklace or a bracelet or a ring. And the necklace is not real like the gold. What do I mean by that? Suppose I say, give me the gold, keep your necklace. It doesn't work, because the necklace is gold through and through. What you weigh is the gold. What you touch is the gold in a necklace. What you really pay for is the gold. Of course, you pay for the brand name and the workmanship and all of that, but the material itself, none of that would work. In Tiffany's also, you say we pay for the brand or something, and it's much more expensive because you buy it from Tiffany's. But even Tiffany's would agree that for all the branding and the workmanship and everything, If you take the gold away, none of it exists anymore. Yeah? You keep your workmanship, just give me the gold. I'll pay for the gold, you keep I won't pay for the brand, and it won't work. So the gold is the reality, which is fashioned into a necklace or a bracelet or a ring. What the Mandukya says is, you are that consciousness. You are a consciousness, an awareness, which appears in these three forms, just as gold appears in three kinds of ornaments. It appears as this, your waker's world, and you, with a body and a mind, as the waking person. The Upanishad calls it the first aspect of the self, where the consciousness through a body and a mind contacts a physical universe. It calls it the gross aspect. Gross not in the sense of being awful, gross in the sense of being physical. So it's a gross universe is a physical universe which you contact with a physical body. The same consciousness working through this mind and body contacts a physical universe through the senses. That's the first aspect. That's your first aspect. It's called the waker and the waker's universe. The second aspect is where you shut down your gateways to the physical world, and you go into a sleep. You forget the physical world, and you generate a subtle world. The Vedantic term is sukshma, subtle world, in your mind, where everything in that world, in the world of dreams, the people, the things which happen, your own body, all of it is made of mind. That's your dream, right? I'm not describing some kind of matrix, some kind of science fiction. It's something that we experience every night. When you wake up, you realize, oh, it was just a dream. When you say, oh, it was just a dream, you mean the people I saw there, they were my mind. The places I visited, they were my mind, the dreamer's mind. The food I ate there, that was my mind. So everything in my dream is my mind. That's the second aspect, the subtle aspect of the self, of yourself. And then there is something called the deep sleep. Everything is shrouded in blankness, in darkness. That's called the causal aspect. Why causal? The way the Vedanta sees deep sleep is the gross and the subtle are sort of merged in an indistinguishable darkness there. They're all there. The person who goes into deep sleep, it's like switching off a computer or putting it into sleep mode. It's all there. All your data is there, all the pictures and everything is there. It's only when it comes up, you'll see it's not wiped out. So when you go into deep sleep, when you come back, you're still the same person. So in deep sleep, you are not wiped out. You are not erased, thank God. When you come back, you're still the same person. You're just switched off for a while. So that's what Vedanta calls the causal aspect. Now looking back, we have three aspects of you. A physical or gross aspect, this one. And the second one is a subtle aspect. When this is erased, physical body is not there, you have a world of your own made of mind, dreams. Third, the causal aspect. So within deep sleep. Gross aspect, subtle aspect, causal aspect. And what the Upanishad says is, none of them are the real you. What is the real you? The fourth aspect, which is awareness itself, which coins itself, which presents itself as the gross universe and this person, as the subtle universe in your dreams and the dreamer, and as the darkness of deep sleep. Now this is tremendous. Why? First of all, it says something like, you are the one being of the universe. The entirety of your physical world. What we normally think about ourselves, I am this person. I am a tiny part of a vast universe. A little body which is changing, growing, older, aging, decaying, is going to die, and that's it for me, finished. And this an uncaring vast universe, vast in time, vast in space, will go on rolling on without me. I'm like not even a tiny blip. I'm like nothing compared to this universe. The Upanishad reverses it. It says, you are the ground of this universe. You are the substance of this universe. The universe is a gold ornament and you are the gold. You are the canvas on which this universe is painted. The universe appears in you It has no existence apart from that impersonal consciousness, the fourth aspect which you are. You are the absolute in which the universe appears. But that fourth aspect is not a person. This gross aspect of the self is a person with a body and a mind. And even the dream aspect is a dream person. But by the time you go to the deep sleep, it's not a person anymore. Do you see that? Do you see in the physical world we are all different? Different people, you look different, we are all different physical bodies. Our minds are different. What you know, he does not know. What he knows, I do not know. What you have experienced and thought and felt, I have not experienced, thought and felt, and so on. So our minds are different. Our personal histories are different. But when we go into, our dreams are different. But when we go into deep sleep, your deep sleep and his deep sleep and hers and mine and everybody else's deep sleep in the world, the deep sleep of the Nobel Prize winning scientist and the deep sleep of an illiterate nomad in a desert, in deep sleep we are all one. Our experience, the texture of deep sleep is same, because blankness cannot be different, darkness cannot be different for anybody. Beyond that, the consciousness which experiences all three is one unchanging consciousness, the pure subject, the witness consciousness, the witness of the three states. When I say witness of the three states, it feels like, like when you're a witness, you are different from what you're witnessing. So yes, that witness is different from the experiences that you have in the three states, but it's also not different. It's the ground of these experiences. Without this, it's like the gold is different from the ornament, but the ornament is not different from the gold. When I say the gold is different from the ornament, what I mean is the gold is not the necklace, because the gold can be a bar of gold, it can be a bracelet, it can be a ring. A gold is not limited to being a necklace. You're with me? Gold can be of any form. But the necklace has to be the gold. Without the gold, the necklace will disappear, because the very substance of the necklace is gold. In the same way, we are not limited by the person. We are the conscious. The witness is not only the witness of the person, but also the reality of the person. You, the person, beyond you is the real you, that impersonal consciousness. This is what the Upanishad is teaching. In the seventh mantra of the Upanishad, it points out the fourth aspect of the self. Earlier they have shown you the gross aspect of the self, the waking, the subtle aspect of the self, the dreaming, the causal aspect of the self, deep sleep, and then in the seventh mantra it comes to the real you. It's a very beautiful, very powerful mantra. Should I share the original Sanskrit with you and then translate it? It's very, very beautiful, very powerful. It goes like this. What is the real you? And the Upanishad says, not the waking, not the dreamer, not the deep sleeper. Na antah pragyam, na bahish pragyam. Not the dreamer, not the waker. Na ubhayata pragyam, not an in-between stage. Na pragyana ghanam, not the deep sleeper. Na pragyam, not even something like God who's omniscient and knows everything. We're not talking about God here. Na apragyam, it's not something insentient like a stone which doesn't know anything. Not even that. See, they're trying to indicate pure consciousness. Consciousness in itself. You're like trying to say, what is gold? For a person who knows only the three ornaments, you're trying to say that gold is not the necklace, not the bracelet, not the ring, and yet it is in and through all of them. That's what you're trying to say. Let me do the rest of the mantra. Adrishtam agrahyam avyavaharyam alakshanam achintyam abhyapadeshyam ekatma pratyasaram prapanchopashamam shantam shivam advaitam chaturtham manyante sa atma sa vijneyah. What does it mean? The real you is not the waking person. The real you is not the dreamer, not the deep sleeper, Not even something like God who knows everything. We are not talking about that. But not insentient also. It's not something that you can see with your sense organs. You can't see it, hear it, touch it, taste it. It's not something that you can grasp with your motor organs. You can't walk to it, you can't catch it with your hand. It's not something that you can express with language. It's beyond language. It can't be expressed, defined in words. It is not something that you can conceive of through thoughts that this is it, defined. It is not something that you can infer, an inference. Most of scientific knowledge is inference. You take the data and get some understanding out of it. It's not like that either. Then what all these are, you see, negative ways of saying it's not this, it's not that. In Sanskrit you say neti neti, not this, not that. It's a negative way of approaching something which cannot be expressed in words. Suppose you cannot express it in words. You cannot say what it is directly. Then one strategy would be to say what it is not. So we have just said what it is not. Basically what they have said is, it's not the waker, it's not the dreamer, it's not the deep sleeper. It's not the waker's world, it's not the dream world, it's not the darkness of deep sleep either. Then what is it? The next part of the mantra tells you in a somewhat more positive tone. Ekatma pratyasaram. It is that which is indicated by the continuous feeling of I. We always have a sense of self. I am here. I am sitting here. I am listening to this. I am this person. If you leave out all the particulars, I am an American, or I am an Indian, I am a man, or I am a woman, or I am a monk, or a householder. Leave all that out. I am a body. Just go back to I am a mind with thoughts and ideas. Go back to, if you can, the pure I am, before you attach anything to it. Ekatma pratyasaram. It literally, the term means, if you follow the I am consciousness within you, that itself is not the pure consciousness, but it will lead you. It points to the source, which is pure consciousness. It's the first radiance, the first light that emerges from the pure consciousness which you are. That points to that. Ekatma pratyasaram. Then the next term is very beautiful. Prapanchopashamam. It is the silence of the universe. What a beautiful term. Prapanchopashamam. You are that in which the universe is silent. In you, really, there is no waking universe, there is no dream universe, there is no darkness of deep sleep either. It's like saying gold is that in which all ornaments disappear. It's a way of putting it. Gold is not an ornament. So gold is that into which all ornaments disappear. All ornaments merge in gold. It's not a necklace or a ring or a bracelet. It is the silence of the universe. Shantam. It is the peaceful. It is peace itself. Very interesting. It does not say you are peaceful. It says you are peace itself. Peace with a capital P. In the Bible you have a very interesting statement. It's called the peace that passeth understanding. And Vedanta would agree with it literally. What is the understanding? Our thoughts, our minds, our thinking which is going on right now, that's the understanding. What is the peace that passeth understanding? The consciousness which is beyond this mind, shining in and through this mind. And the Upanishad says that's who you are. You are not peaceful, you are peace itself. Shantam. Shivam. The Sanskrit word Shivam literally means auspicious, blissful in this case. Not only free of suffering, but also full of joy. Peaceful, joyful, blissful. Advaitam. Non-dual. The word non-dual has to be understood. Non-dual is a very profound word. Non-dual means there is no second reality apart from this real you, the fourth. How? Think about the three ornaments. The necklace, the ring and the bracelet. And the gold. Are they second apart from the gold? apart from the gold, is there a second thing there? You see what I'm saying? Is the necklace a second thing apart from the gold? No, it is not, because you can't show them. You can't show, here are two things. Here is your gold and here is your necklace. No. The necklace is not a second thing apart from the gold. Nor is the bracelet a second thing apart from the gold. Nor is the ring a second thing apart from the gold. They are all names and forms of the same gold. In the same way, this universe which you experience, the Upanishad says this universe is not a second thing apart from that pure consciousness, which you really are. It's saying something as radical as you are everything that you experience. Whatever you experience all through your life, that real you, that pure consciousness, that itself is appearing in all these forms. Because it's non-dual. There is no second reality. You say, okay, there's no second reality apart from that pure consciousness. But what about me? There's no second reality apart from you, because you are that pure consciousness, according to Vedanta. Advaitam. And then the next thing it says, Chaturtham manyante. People think it is the fourth. Fourth, waker is the first, dreamer is the second, deep sleeper is the third, and this pure consciousness is the fourth. Who thinks that? People think that. And the commentator there says, in Sanskrit, there's an old commentary by Shankaracharya, he says, ignorant people think that. But those who have studied the Mandukya, now we know, it's not the fourth. It is the one reality which appears as the three. Waker, dreamer, deep sleeper. Gold is not a fourth ornament. Gold is the one reality which appears as the three ornaments. It is the one consciousness which appears in these ways. Sa Atma. Sa Atma means that's you. That's you. Not something that I will become, when I go to heaven or when I'm enlightened, when I become like the Buddha or something, then I'm going to become this pure consciousness. No. So it's like the necklace saying that, okay, when I'm enlightened, I'll become gold. You are gold. You can be an ignorant necklace or an enlightened necklace. But the only difference between an ignorant necklace and an enlightened necklace is the enlightened necklace knows I am gold. And the ignorant necklace goes, what's gold? That's the difference. That is the self. Savigyeya, that has to be realized. What do you have to do then? If I am already that. If God exists in heaven, then okay, I understand. I have to go to heaven. If I have to become enlightened, okay, I have to sit like the Buddha and meditate and meditate and meditate until I get something like a flash of light, I'm enlightened. But if I am already that, if I am already the absolute, then what am I supposed to do? Savigyeya, that has to be realized, made a living reality for you. Right now our condition is, like I have just been told, your lawyer comes and tells you, congratulations, your rich uncle died and left you $1 billion. You're a billionaire. Okay, great. Now you're a billionaire, but you don't know where the money is, how to get it, which bank has it, where are the papers. So you're still on welfare, though technically you're a billionaire. So our condition is like that. Technically you are one with God. Technically you are the absolute. And yet we suffer. What the Upanishad says, you need not suffer. You have to realize that which is already there and break out of this suffering. The whole project of enlightenment is this, waking up to what you already have. In Vedanta they say something very funny. What do you get out of Vedanta? You get what you've already got. And what does Vedanta what does Vedanta give you? It gives you what you've already got. And what does Vedanta get rid of? It gets rid of what was never there. There's a phrase the monks used in the Himalayas. You have to get rid of what was never there, and you have to get what you already have. In Sanskrit, praptasya prapti, nivrittasya nivritti. Prapta means what's already there. What's already there, you get it. What was never there, you get rid of it. What was never there, they say samsara, this world of misery and suffering. You think this horrible life, I'm just making do. That phrase, very evocative. Most men lead lives of quiet desperation. Yeah? Who was that? You need not. We need not. You have to just snap out of it. You say it can't be that easy. Well, yes, not that easy, but it can be a lifetime's work. But when you snap out of it, you snap out of it. You see it is that easy. It's difficult. People say if it was so easy, most people would be enlightened now. You would have many more Buddhas walking on the streets of Manhattan today. But the difficulty is not in realizing what you are, because you are that. How difficult could it be? The difficulty is the complications we have spun around ourselves. The web, the cocoon we have spun around ourselves. To break free of that requires this tremendous effort. The effort we put into spiritual practice and the struggle, the different kinds of practices and all are required to unravel the knots we have tied. They tell a very nice story about this, about the path that we walk. I've told you about the donkey, I think. No? In India, washing machines, now there are washing machines, clothes washers, but earlier there were none. When I grew up, I'd never seen a washing machine. What you do is, if you have a lot of clothes, you give it to a person called a dhobi. It's a washerman. And he'll come and collect the clothes from you, and then they go out to a river bank, and they wash the clothes there, and you wouldn't like to see what they do with your clothes. They trash it on the big rock so that they make it really clean. And they spend all day long drying it, and then they fold it neatly, and next day you'll have all the clean clothes back. It's a very natural way of washing clothes. And that's how people make their, he's like a mobile laundry for you. So, and he usually has a donkey, not nowadays. Nowadays I'm sure they have scooters or cars or something like that. But usually the washerman had a donkey, who on the donkey he would load the pile of clothes, and they would drive the donkey to the river bank and do the day's washing, and then load the washed and dried clothes on the donkey and go back home. So this washerman would do that every day, and he had this rope with which he would tie the donkey. One day he came to the river bank, and to his horror he discovered that he had forgotten to get the rope to tie the donkey to the tree. Now he can't leave the donkey alone. If he goes to wash, it will be away all day long, and the donkey would just wander off, and that's it. He's lost his donkey. Now he doesn't know what to do. He has no time to go back all the way back to his village. And this wise person walks by. Always there's a wise person. And the washerman says, "Sir, what can I do? This is my problem." And the wise man says, "No problem at all. What you do is stand in front of the donkey and go through the motions of tying him. Just pretend you are tying him." "That's all?" "Yes, that's all." And the washerman goes near the donkey, and the donkey is watching him. And the washerman pretends to take out the rope and ties it and puts it on the tree and goes around the tree and ties it, and the donkey is watching and sort of flapping his ears once in a while. And the washerman sort of leaves the donkey alone, takes the load of clothes off, and walks backward slowly, watching the donkey to see whether it will run off or nothing. And the donkey is there, standing there, absolutely quiet, munching grass. And the washerman goes about his business. Once in a while he looks back, there's a donkey, and he's still standing there, not tired at all, but standing there. And the evening, when his work is done, he comes back and he loads the clothes on the donkey, and he says, "Let's go back home." Donkey doesn't move. He says, "Come on, let's go back home." And the donkey doesn't move. Now he says, "What black magic is this?" And he runs to that wise person's house. "Sir, I'm in great trouble. What did you do? Now the donkey won't go back home." He says, "No problem. Just go in front of him and pretend to untie him. Just go through the motions of untying him." So he goes there and he does that. He takes up the rope and he's pretending, and he coils up the rope and says, "Now let's go." And the donkey sort of walks, starts walking. The masters say that's exactly what we are doing in spiritual life. You've tied yourself, and now you are untying yourself. Now, tying yourself is samsara, and all of spiritual practice, your meditation, your devotion, and all Vedanta and philosophy, and all of this is untying the donkey. All the time you're not tied at all. And what is the proof? The proof is this. When you make that breakthrough, when you see through it, the illusion of samsara, you will realize you were never trapped at all. It was all good. When you snap out of this, this horror story sometimes we find ourselves in is entirely of our own making. You are that one reality upon which the game of samsara plays. Another very beautiful example, as Swami told me, I'll tell you that. That one consciousness in which appears the story of your life. He said, imagine there's this little kid who has never seen a movie. Very difficult to imagine that now. But anyway, just imagine there's a little kid who has not seen a movie, what a film is like. And his dad says, I'll take you to the city and show you a film, a movie. And on the way to the city, the man is explaining to his boy, to his son, that, see, a movie is there'll be a screen, and there'll be light, and there'll be pictures projected on the screen, and there'll be sound, and that's a movie. The boy says, okay. And then they go to the cinema hall, and this is the thing, the movie has already started. That's the problem, when we come into this, we don't know, we haven't signed up, we haven't bought the tickets, but we are thrust into it when the movie has started. You already have a mom and a dad and school to go to and a life to grow up into, and so you get busy with the movie. And like that, the little kid also gets busy with the movie. He's sitting with his dad and watching the movie and completely engrossed in the movie. Maybe it's what's the latest Star Wars movie?
Solo.
Han Solo or something like that.
Yes.
So there's a movie, and you can see. I know what it is because I watched the first Star Wars movie, and I'll never forget it. I was a little kid, and I was so eager, that to my dad and my mom took me there, and a little brother, who was a babe in arms at that time. It's a bad idea taking him to the movies. I'm still mad at him because when Han Solo and Chewbacca came in the Millennium Falcon, I remember that scene very clearly because that's the last scene I got to see before my brother started screaming and crying, and people went hush and they glared at us and we had to leave the hall. So I didn't forgive him for a very long time. So imagine the movie is going on and the kid is absorbed in the movie. He's seeing Han Solo and Chewbacca and then the spaceship and the space battles, and that's all. After some time, he remembers. He asks his dad. These questions come up only after a little while. Otherwise, we are very busy growing up, going to school and college and making our way in life. He turns to his dad and says, Dad, yeah, what? Where's the screen you mentioned? The screen, it's right there. In front of you. Where? You mean Han Solo is the screen? No, behind Han Solo. Behind Han Solo, you mean Chewbacca is the screen? You know what Chewbacca is? He's like a big guy with very like a bear with lots of. You might not think it. There's a lot of relationship between Star Wars and Vedanta. Yes, George Lucas, who was behind the first Star Wars movie, when he was looking for a plot, he got some advice from his friend, who turned out to be none other than Joseph Campbell, who wrote about mythology, and who was a disciple of the Swami on the East Side Center at that time, Swami Nikhilananda, and gave him a lot of Vedantic ideas. And a lot of them are in Star Wars movies. I mean, for me, it's you can just sit and smile because, for example, I don't know if you've seen all the Star Wars movies. In one of them, there are these Jedi masters, and there are disciples who become masters after some time, and they take years in which they have tufts of hair. When they become a master, the hair is cut off. That's exactly what we do. We have long tufts of hair. When we become monks, that tuft is cut off and put into the fire, things like that. So I don't know where he got it from, but I have an inkling that he must have got it from Joseph Campbell. Anyway, and the Force. You can see the Force is a lot like what we are talking about, one all-pervading consciousness, in which everything appears. Anyway, back to the movie. So the screen is just behind Han Solo. Is Chewbacca the screen? No, it's behind Chewbacca. Behind. You mean the spaceship is the screen? No, behind all of that. Oh, behind all of that. So you mean the spaceship and the screen, and Chewbacca and Han Solo, all of that is the screen. And the dad says, no, just remove all of that and what's left over is the screen. Oh, you mean you remove everything, so the screen is nothing? How will the dad point out the screen to his son? Because whatever he points to, there's a picture there. There's a picture there. Whatever you point to in this world, there's an object. And if you say that is that pure consciousness, you'll think that that object is the pure consciousness. It'll either be something in the world, or it'll be the body, or it'll be the mind, your thoughts, your ideas, or it'll be the person. Even the person, even what we consider to be the subject, is also an object because it is experienced. You experience the person that you are. You experience it. It's an object. What experiences the person? In Vedanta, we say the person never becomes free. You become free of the person. Not that the person will go away. The person will continue to live and do his or her thing. But you realize that you are not limited by that person. You are much vaster than that person. So the screen is not any of the characters of the movie. It is also not nothing. It is the reality on which the movie of life is playing. You are that screen. You are that consciousness in which the movie of the life of that person you think you are right now. That person's life, that movie is playing out. Realize that you are the fourth, the one consciousness. And then watch as many movies as you like. Let the movie go on. You don't have to switch off the movie. There are two paths to this. One is the yoga, the Patanjali yoga path, which says in samadhi, the deepest meditation, you realize the self. That approach is to switch off the movie. One way of looking at the screen is you switch off the movie, switch on the lights in the hall, and the kid will see for himself what the screen is. Okay, so that's the screen. That's one way. That's the path of meditation, where you shut out the world. In the deepest meditation, you do not experience the world, you do not experience the body, you do not even experience the mind. The mind is calm to an absolute quietness. Then the idea is, this pure consciousness which you are, it is not experienced as an object, that would be a movie, but it's experienced as yourself. Once you know it, the movie of life can start and you can go on with it with no problem at all. That's one approach. The other approach is the Advaita, non-dualistic approach, where it says, through sheer knowledge, without switching off the movie, while watching the movie, can you discriminate, can you analyze yourself into the consciousness and the experience of consciousness, things which you experience in consciousness. But the waker, not the dreamer, not the deep sleeper, the one which experiences all three. It's like while watching the movie, if it's explained to you what is a movie and what is a screen, can you watch the movie and figure out what is the screen and what is the movie? That's what we're trying to do here. That's the example. Realize yourself as the one consciousness which at this moment you experience as either the waking you, the dreaming you, or the deep sleeper you. One example was given as this man who lives, and he runs a shop which is in his house. He opens the windows and trades with the world. When the evening comes, he pulls down the shutters, goes to his living room, switches on the TV and watches a TV show. And then when he's tired, he switches off the TV, goes to his bedroom and goes to sleep. He's the same man, whether he's trading with the world outside, watching a TV show, or in his pajamas and sleeping. Same person. It's the same consciousness which experiences itself as a waker transacting with the waking world, as a dreamer experiencing a dream in the mind, as the deep sleeper experiencing blankness, but the consciousness is one and the same. That consciousness is free of the troubles of the waking world. You see, the body of the waking world is not you. Its aging is not your aging. Its decay and death are not your death. This consciousness does not die, is not born with the birth of the body, does not die with the death of the body. This consciousness does not disappear with the disappearance of the mind in deep sleep. You are ever free of the body and mind. Live happily in the body and mind, experiencing the world, experiencing this life, knowing that you are not limited to this little person. These are some of the implications. I've run out of time. I'll take questions. If you have got questions, comments, yes.
Does the Vedanta have any view on why we tie ourselves up?
Yes.
And the purpose of that perhaps?
Right. The answer of Vedanta is, the question is, why do we tie ourselves up? And what's the purpose of the whole thing? The answer in Vedanta would be ignorance. We really have not, remember the donkey, we really have not tied ourselves up. It just seems like that. The one thing that we have to do is realize that we are not tied up. We are that ever-free consciousness, not the person who seems to be caught in samsara. Then that person will now be called an enlightened person, and the samsara itself becomes transformed into a land of bliss. There's nothing here that is problematic for you. You can, the enlightened person, you can live as that person quite happily. You can live, pass your days, and the person can also die. The body can die, but you are not affected by that. So the difference is in knowledge and ignorance. If you ask why, the only answer is because we do not know. Why is this world of dreams there? I'm having a terrible nightmare. The real answer to that is, why is this happening? The real answer is, it's not happening. It's a dream. Wake up. Only thing in a dream is when you snap out of a dream, the dream stops. Here, when you snap out of it, this will continue, but you realize that it's not it's a surface reality. It's the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. There is 10,000 feet of water below it. You are not affected by it. There are two kinds of illusions. One is like the dream, when you wake up, it's gone. You don't see it anymore. There's another kind of illusion. Say, for example, the sky is blue. The sky is not really blue. Because of the scattering of light, because of optics, it looks blue at a certain time of the day. Even when you realize it's not really blue, there's no color there, then you look up into the sky, it still looks blue to you. They give an example of water in a mirage, in a desert. It looks like there's an oasis in the distance, a lot of water there. But when you run there, it's an optical illusion. There's no water in a mirage. But when you walk up and you look back, what do you see? Water. It still looks like that. The enlightened person looks upon this world and sees the same thing that you and I see. But there's a big difference. The enlightened person sees this entire world as painted upon the one consciousness that person is. It's not the person, it's the consciousness in which this world appears. Whereas we see it as a person and the world. Yeah. So the difference is ignorance and knowledge. What is the purpose, if you ask? Right now, practically, what is the purpose for a person who's been told it's a dream? The only purpose is to wake up. Nothing else can be done until you wake up, because everything else is in the dream. It's part of ignorance. So our real purpose here is to wake up. Vivekananda put it very powerfully. He said, the goal of life, where each soul is potentially divine. We are that absolute reality. And the purpose of life is to realize this, and to manifest it is to live it. It solves all life's problems. One thing you will notice about people you would consider enlightened in any tradition in the world, in any religion in the world, people you would consider to be an enlightened person, they no longer have complaints about the world. I sometimes joke and say that if you consider yourself enlightened, one thing you're going to lose is the right to complain and grumble. You have given up the right to grumble. Yes. Yes.
So now that we know, what keeps us from waking up? Because what keeps us from snapping out of it?
Right. What keeps us from snapping out of it? Now that we know that we are this one consciousness in which we are experiencing all these things. In Vedanta, they talk about 3 problems. Here's the bad news. So far it was the good news. It's so simple and direct. They talk about 3 problems. The first problem is what I told you, ignorance. That's the root problem. I do not know. I did not know this. You say, well, now we know. So why am I not enlightened yet? I don't feel enlightened. You've just given me the good news that my rich uncle died and left me $1 billion, left me lots of pure consciousness, but I don't seem to have any access to that. So the first root problem is ignorance. Now, knowledge, I have attended your talks, I don't seem to be enlightened. People say, I've been coming to the Vedanta Society, or I've been attending Dharma talks for decades now, I don't seem to be enlightened. The second problem which Vedanta speaks about is the mind is unable to absorb these teachings. The mind is not prepared. What's the problem with the mind? They call it distracted mind. I'll give you the exact term Vedanta uses for these problems. The first term used is ajnana, which means ignorance. The second level problem is vikshepa, which means distracted mind. So we hear, but we really do not hear. One Swami humorously, when he teaches Vedanta, he says, come right in, yeah. One Swami, he puts it very, he says, funnily, he says to students, you are here, but you do not hear. Hear as in H-E-R-E, you are here. And hear as in H-E-A-R, you do not hear. I'm saying it, but it's not. So, the second thing is the mind is scattered, vikshepa. What is the solution now? What is the solution for ignorance? Knowledge. What is the solution for scattered mind? The answer is meditation. Focus. Focus. How do you focus? You are taught meditation. To concentrate the mind, to get the mind under control. We have this wrong idea that the mind is under our control. It's my mind. We don't know our minds. You see, we know our bodies to some extent. Somebody says, can you bench press 200 pounds? So, no, I can't. I know that a weightlifter might be able to do it, but I cannot. I have a good understanding of what my body can do or cannot do. But I don't have a similar understanding of my mind. Most people do not know the limits of their own minds. The minds are out of control. One Swami put it very humorously. He says, suppose you have an apartment in Brooklyn, suppose. And your friend says, I'm going there for a few days. Can I stay there? And you say, yeah, there's a caretaker. I'll give you a note. And you show the note to the caretaker and he'll let you stay in my apartment. So your friend turns up at your apartment in Brooklyn and he goes up and he rings the bell. And this rather rough looking character comes out and says, yep, I'm going to stay here, the owner of this house. Really? Yeah, he gave me this note. Let me see. And he sees this note and he takes the note and tears it up into pieces, and 3 other similarly rough looking characters come out of the apartment and they pick up your friend and toss him out on the street. Now, will you say that apartment still is under your control? It is not. Some guys have taken it over. Squatters are there. So your friend cannot stay there anymore. You really cannot exercise effective control over that apartment anymore. Our minds are like that. You say that, okay, I'm going to meditate on Om right now. And the poor Om goes into the mind and says, I'm going to stay in the mind for a while, guys, do you mind? And then the mind, there is worry and tough guys, anxiety and temptation and plans for the future, and all these guys, they are there in the mind. They come and catch hold of the poor Om and toss it out. See, the Om says, but the guy who owns the mind told me I can stay in the mind. No, you cannot. The mind is not under our control. So to get the mind back under control, meditative practices, and there's a whole spectrum of them, they are prescribed. Then when you do that, okay, I meditate, and then sort of you go scratch your head. I try to meditate, but I know I feel sleepy. And 2 problems. Either I feel restless, I look at the clock, when can I get up from the meditation mat? It's so boring here. I saw this cartoon, of Zen meditation session. The master and the novice who comes and sits near the master. And the master sits quietly. And the next panel is they're sitting quietly. And the young guy who's come to learn is looking at the master like this. And the master says, this is it. Nothing happens. If you're looking for an exciting time, this is just the opposite. So meditation, either you find it boring and distracting or you fall asleep. The mind doesn't like it. Why does the mind not like it? Here's the third tier of the problem, which is called in Sanskrit mala. Mala means impurity. We have dumped a ton of garbage into the mind. The garbage truck has not been around for weeks and months and years. You can imagine the trash heap we are living in. We don't know because it's subtle. And that place is a very unhealthy environment. If you try to concentrate there, it won't work. So first a thorough cleaning has to be done. And the cleaning of the mind. So impurity in the mind is the first problem. Solution, purity of the mind. Method, many methods are there. In Vedanta we say something like karma yoga, selfless activity. You clean up the basement basically, clean up the trash in the mind. Bring your life back under control. Clean up, you start with literally cleaning up your room. Taking responsibility for your life, setting standards for our life, These are, you don't have to say that I'm going to become a saint or something, but you have to say these are the moral standards, are my standards. I consciously take up these standards and I will not violate them. I will stick to the truth. I'll stick to some kind of self-discipline. I'll stick to being unselfish. They're basic moral virtues which I set the standard for. That cleans up the mind. With a clean mind, when you approach meditation, then meditation works. I remember one Swami in the Himalayas is teaching meditation and he says, Samadhi is the deepest meditation. Samadhi is easy, Swami. I can give you Samadhi in 2 minutes. Really? Yes, but I have a condition. Come with pure mind. That's a lifetime's work. So Samadhi, the deep meditation is possible when the mind is calm. The mind is not an enemy. There's a saying that the pure mind runs straight to God. It's the impure mind which gives us so much trouble on the spiritual path. Purify the mind, meditation is easy. Now with a pure and meditative mind, when you listen to these teachings, knowledge flashes and intuition flashes, you break through. It happens. I have known people to whom it has happened. It's interesting. Sometimes it does not happen during the meditation itself. Sometimes the mind works that way. You concentrate intensely and then you let go and relax, and then the breakthrough happens. It happens even for people who are scientists or people who are creative people. Often the real breakthrough happens when they are relaxing. They're not intensely working. But you must put in intense work first. Then that breakthrough happens and knowledge flashes. I am not the body and mind. I am the awareness in which the body appears and the mind appears and this world appears. The world changes, the body changes, the mind changes, the person changes. I am the unchanging witness of all this change. It becomes so clear. It's like a physical separation takes place. Yeah. Let me just sum up. I drew a matrix for you. Problem, ignorance. Solution, knowledge. Method, you listen to, there's a method, threefold method. Listening, reasoning, meditating. So that's the first tier. Problem, distracted mind. Solution, focused mind. Method, meditation. Problem, impure mind. Solution, pure mind. Method, karma yoga, or many kinds of the basic moral practices. You had a question. Do you still remember it? Yeah.
So, say the person reaches enlightenment.
Yes.
And you said that it doesn't matter if we're in this body or not.
Yes.
Once that happens.
Yes.
So what happens when the consciousness, the body leaves?
Right.
We leave the body.
Right. This is connected to the question that he asked earlier. What's the purpose of the whole thing after all? All right, I understand because of ignorance this is happening, but why? What's the whole thing about? So Vedanta says, and again this is a provisional explanation. This is not the real explanation. this is basically untying the donkey. The donkey was not been tied at all. But because there's a question, there will be an answer will be given. I'll give you the answer, then give you the real answer. The provisional answer is this, that we are in ignorance, the purpose is to attain enlightenment, and that's why this game of life with bodies and life after life. Hindus believe in many lives, Hindus, Buddhists, all Indian. I saw this cartoon which said an American guy standing with an Indian guy, and the American guy is saying, I'm a born again Christian, and the Indian guy says, oh, I'm a born again and again and again and again Hindu. But basically it means, Vedanta says all of this is ultimately for enlightenment. So the bodies we have, even the little persons we are, is ultimately meant for, like a cocoon, to break out of this little personality. If you do it, that birth is your last birth. You remain as one with the universe. You remain as that absolute reality, not as a little person. So you can say you remain as everything, or everything is also nothing. You remain as that one reality. So that is the purpose. Once you become enlightened, that life will be your last life. That's a sort of common thing in all Indian philosophies. Buddha's, that particular life was the last life where he attained nirvana, enlightenment. So that's the kind of idea. In Mahayana Buddhism, of course, they say if you are enlightened, you can still come back again and again to help others out of ignorance. So those ideas are there. But this is basically the provisional answer. But what's the real answer? The real answer is, even this game, this ignorance, enlightenment, breaking out of it, all of it is part of the dream. You snap out of it and you see that none of this is ultimately true. That fourth existence, consciousness place, that alone is true. In that, all these appearances are going on. The screen is true, and on the screen lots of movies are playing. It's like asking within the movie, what's the purpose of this movie? Yeah. And if somebody comes and tells you, well, there is something beyond the movie, and to arise from this movie into something beyond the movie, that's the purpose. But that's not true. The truth is that it's a movie, and the truth is that there's a screen. The screen is you. So the answer is, you are the truth. And to come to that realization is the purpose of this whole thing. You asked that question earlier, what's the purpose of the whole thing? According to Vedanta, yeah. All right, now you had another question?
So let's assume you untie yourself.
Yes.
And you have that experience, but then you become tied again.
Huh.
And it's just a continue. I mean, it's a life's work. I mean, does the Vedanta teach that once you achieve enlightenment, that's it, or can you have flashes of enlightenment, but then you are tied again in this imaginary rope?
Right. Once you're enlightened, that is forever. But that enlightenment is not an yes or no thing. Not usually on this path, as you walk along, you get intuitions. Everybody gets flashes. As you go, you get insights. And yet you may be very far. We may be very far from enlightenment. We are very far from becoming a Buddha. But you keep getting insights. It's not a yes or no thing. Start walking on the path and you will begin to see. One thing the beautiful about this path is that in the Gita it is said that even a little bit of this saves you from great fear. Swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even a little bit of this dharma saves one from great suffering, great fear. Not only does it save you from great fear, you keep getting insights as you walk this path. It becomes real. It is sort of self-confirming that as you walk on the path, you see more and more. Maybe I'm not enlightened. I've heard monks telling me, I know this is true. What my life's experience tells me, I'm not an enlightened person, but what my life's experience tells me is this path is real. That more and more you proceed, it's not like you find that it's all a hoax and I tried it out, I investigated it and found it all to be silly and nonsense. I have never heard a single person say that to me. I'm not just talking about Vedanta. Any of the great spiritual traditions of humanity, anybody walking this path seriously for some time, they feel it somewhere in the heart of hearts. There is something to this. A lot of it may be myth. A lot of it may be, stories which have accrued over the ages. But there's a fundamental reality shining through all of that. Every person who walked on this path, I have to say, yeah.
So the more experience you have, the more you'll be enlightened.
No, it's not even a gradual process. There is a point when you do make a breakthrough. It's not an accumulation of lots of experiences. These experiences help you. They are signposts. Ultimately, you yourself, if you are the ultimate reality, you are not an experience. You are that which experiences all of this. So you yourself are not a particular experience. Sometimes what happens is one ends up chasing experiences. I have this experience, now I'm going to have a deeper experience. I saw some light, I saw this, I felt that. What Vedanta says, Vedanta can be quite contrary. It says, did you see it? Yes. Then it's not it. Remember, that fourth one is not something that you see. It's not an object. It is that which saw it. You have to realize yourself as that. On the way, you can have multiple experiences, wonderful experiences, and they all point towards something, which you already are. So it's not an accumulation of experiences. Those experiences will come, and they are all good, but you are not supposed to chase experiences, nor accumulate experiences. They are encouraging when they come. Even if they do not come, there's no problem, because you still are that absolute. Right? What we call spiritual experiences are basically extraordinary experiences. Experiences we all have. Right now we are having an experience, isn't it? It's an experience. The beauty about Vedanta is it does not rely on extraordinary experiences. Did you go into deep meditation and see something like that? We're not denying that such things are possible, but that's not the point. Look at what we used: waking, dreaming, deep sleep. Everybody has these experiences. Just use these to gain an insight into yourself. So there is a point where you make a breakthrough. So that point is also there. It's a before and after point. But even after, your body and mind, they take time to soak it in. There is an inertia which continues. It is well understood. I see sometimes here in today's world, in the West and also increasingly in India, people have this breakthrough. But what happens is, in the absence of the right traditions, what happens is they rush to write a book, give a TED talk, and come on Oprah maybe, and they are successful because they have made a genuine breakthrough. So there is a power to what they say because they have seen. So when you listen to such a person, it evokes something within you. You feel this person is telling the truth because they have seen the truth, but they are not full-blown enlightened people. It takes time for the body and the mind especially to soak in what has come from beyond the mind. So you have to stay there for a while. We find in India there's a tradition of seekers who do intense meditation, who stay with that understanding for a long time to make it very natural. To sum up, there's a before and an after, but even the after, there's an after. So are we out of time? We are out of time. I'll repeat, are we recording? There's one thing I would like to say is, what I find that in today's world, spiritual traditions, I said something like that last time, spiritual traditions, there's truth in all these great religious traditions. But there's a reason why I've heard pastors and rabbis and priests telling me that their young people are not interested, we have losing congregations and aging congregations and so forth. There's a reason why younger people, many people today are rejecting conventional religion. I think spirituality, true spirituality, should have these three things in mind in today's world. One is, it should not be anything against science. What is accepted by science, mainstream science, I should not be asked to believe something because my ancient book tells me this is true, and shut your eyes to all the discoveries of science. No. As Vivekananda said, person must have not only have faith but have intellectual faith too. Your brain, your intellect must tell you it's okay, it sounds reasonable. So it should not be against science. If there is something clearly unscientific, proven to be old and wrong, we can keep it as symbolic, as part of our culture, a nice story, a nice myth. Good. We don't have to literally believe in it. So that's one thing. It should not be unscientific. The second thing is, it should be in harmony with modern values. You see, all these ancient religions, they are very ancient structures. Christianity is 2,000 years old, more than 2,000 years old. Buddhism is 2,500 years old. Judaism is around that time. Hinduism is 5,000 to 6,000 years old. They came from primitive societies which were heavily patriarchal. Racism in India takes a form called casteism. Gender discrimination. All of these things, it's a burden from the past. We should not hold on to it. The spiritual traditions can easily survive without holding on to these ancient structures. So modern spirituality should be fully in consonance with our modern values, with the values we accept in 21st century. And the third thing I think which spirituality should have is the harmony of religions. One thing which turns off people is this constant fighting between religions. I have the truth, what you do is wrong, and at best I'll tolerate you, at worst I'm going to murder you. Who wants this? I wouldn't want to belong to such a kind of a cult or such a teaching, We can absolutely get along beautifully without holding on to these, this kind of exclusivist claim to the truth. Perennial philosophy, Aldous Huxley wrote that these fundamental spiritual truths are found in all traditions. Base yourself on that. Don't fight on the basis of religion. So these three things I wanted to point, that spirituality should be scientific, at least not unscientific, should be in consonance with our cherished values of this age, and should be absolutely for peace, should never lend itself to war and violence. Okay, I've said my thing. Thank you very much. Thank you.